Hi everyone, I'm David Aragona, and this is the 2020 TimeformUS Road to the Kentucky Derby series where we handicap the Kentucky Derby prep races. In this video, I'm going to take a look at the Grade 3 Gotham on Saturday at Aqueduct. I'm doing two other videos this week to discuss the two other major Derby preps taking place, those being the San Felipe out in California and the Tampa Bay Derby down in Florida. You can check those out on DRF.com or DRF's YouTube channel where I handicap those races. But the focus of this video is that New York Derby prep, the Grade 3 Gotham. Let's throw up the field and take a look at this group of 11 runners. The likely favorite is going to be the number 6 Mischievous Alex. I pegged him at 3-1 on the morning line because he's stretching out for the first time in this race. We'll get to him and how he's going to handle that added distance, but it's a pretty competitive field that he's facing. You've got some horses coming out of maiden races like War Stop or Attachment Rate, the intriguing Sixto. You've got Untitled, who comes out of the same Swale Stakes that Mischievous Alex won last time. So many runners to consider. Before we get to those contender past performances, though, let's take a look at the TimeformUS pace projector in this race, because I mentioned that number 6 Mischievous Alex. He is a speed horse and he's likely to be towards the front end in this race. We'll see how the pace develops on the lead with those that are going to be contesting the pace, because the pace projector is predicting a fast pace. I wouldn't say that anybody else outside of Mischievous Alex is a real need the lead type of horse, though. You see the number 10 Untitled up towards the front end. He has led in a couple of his races. He's rated though too in one of his starts. The number 7 Sixto came from just off the pace when he broke his maiden in his only career start. The number 1 Celtic Striker and the number 5 Necker Island, also horses that could be poorly placed, but they're definitely not need the lead type of runners. So we'll see how much pressure Mischievous Alex has to endure on the front end. Taking a look at Mischievous Alex's PPs, those last two speed figures just really signal that he is way the horse to beat in this race. The others in this field just aren't really running TimeformUS speed figures above that 110 mark, and he's done it in each of his last two starts, earning a 114 when he won that Parks Juvenile so impressively. And let's take a look at his race last time out when he won that Grade 3 Swale by 7 lengths. He beat today's rival Untitled in that race. Now, it should be noted Untitled did not get away from the gate that cleanly, but Mischievous Alex still faced plenty of pressure on the front end that day. He was kind of in an awkward position around the far turn, behind another horse by about half a length, but he punched on through, took the lead at the top of the stretch, won off very impressively in the late stages of this race. He finished up like a horse who shouldn't really have a problem handling just one extra furlong here, and I like that this race is a 1-turn mile rather than a 2-turn route race. I think his connections are really stretching him out in distance wisely. We'll see if he handles the extra ground. His pedigree could go either way. Into Mischief is obviously a versatile sire. His dam side is really more geared towards sprint races. This is not a horse that I'm going to be looking for in the race like the Kentucky Derby going 1.25 miles, but the Gotham could be a good race for him because the 1-turn mile, as I said, might be right up his alley. So I definitely respect Mischievous Alex as the favorite. That horse Untitled that finished behind him last time in the Swale, well, I shouldn't say last time for Untitled, because he's actually run once since the Swale before this Gotham when he contested an optional claiming race at Tampa Bay Downs last time out on February 14th. He was returning just 13 days after that Swale. Let's take a look at Untitled through the stretch of that race. He was run down by Governor Morris this day, and I didn't feel like Untitled really had a big excuse in this race. Perhaps Governor Morris is just a better horse than him. Perhaps Untitled didn't want to go the 2 turns. He's cutting back to 1 turn here. We'll see if he can get back to that debut race that he ran, because he did earn that pretty impressive 117 TimeformUS speed figure when he won his debut by 11 lengths at Gulfstream Park, going 6 furlongs. He doesn't strike me as a horse that has to be a pure sprinter, but he hasn't run back to that speed figure since. The 111 that he earned last time against Optional Claiming Company, that's going to get him a pretty big piece of this race if he repeats it here. Just hasn't struck me as a horse that's really heading in the right direction, and he's got to make his 3rd career start in just the span of 5 weeks now. So Mark Casse is really asking a lot of this lightly raced horse. I'll use him defensively, but I prefer some others on the top part of my wagers. The horse that I prefer the most is actually a horse who's coming out of a race at Aqueduct, Jimmy Winkfield. That's the number 8 MONTAUK Traffic. This is a horse going out for Linda Rice, and she obviously sent out another winner of a Derby prep at Aqueduct recently, the winner of the Wither Stakes, that being Max Player. MONTAUK Traffic, though, he'll be stretching out for the first time in this Gotham, just like Mischievous Alex. MONTAUK Traffic, though, I thought he handled the 7 furlongs that he'd gotten the Jimmy Winkfield quite well last time. We'll take a look at him coming through the stretch of that race. He didn't get the easiest trip that day because Jose Lezcano was trying to get him to settle in mid-pack down the backstretch, ultimately got shuffled out of position on the far turn, had to basically back out to last as they came to the quarter pole, and this horse did really well to angle off the inside, run through kickback, and he just exploded once he got into the clear in the late stages of this race. He was on his wrong lead, but still ran past the leaders. It's true that he wasn't really beating much in this race, and the 104 TimeformUS speed figure that he earned in victory is not going to get him much here, but he strikes me as the kind of horse that's going to keep improving with added ground, with experience. Linda Rice is not the kind of trainer that just takes a shot in these graded stakes races. She typically means business and likes the horses that she's running in these races when she does enter them, and this one is certainly bred to do better with extra distance. Being a son of cross traffic, the Dam Tattinger Rose, she was a horse who was a grade 3 winner routing on dirt at 1 1/8. This horse is a have to escape artist who is a confirmed dirt routing type, so I don't think Montauk Traffic is going to have any problem with the 1 mile distance. Might ultimately want to go farther than this, and he's going to get some pace to close into. So Montauk Traffic is my top pick in this race, but there are others to consider as well. Those horses coming out of maiden victories that I mentioned at the top. One of those is the number 3 War Stopper. He broke his maiden on January 11th, and we'll take a look at him in the stretch of that race. He just dominated this race from start to finish, took the lead soon after the start in a race that didn't really feature a whole lot of pace, drew away through the stretch. The runner-up Continuation was a first-time starter who took a pretty good run at him late, but Continuation never really let that horse get close. Now, War Stopper did earn a very impressive 112 TimeformUS speed figure for this performance, though it's worth noting that Continuation, when he came back and ran in his second start, he ran much slower. His TimeformUS speed figure dropped off by about 16 points that day. The buyer dropped off as well by, I think, about 8 points. So it remains to be seen if that War Stopper maiden win is quite as strong as it seemed at the time. Furthermore, January 11th, the day that he won, the track was somewhat speed favoring, so he was carried along a bit by the racetrack that day. And now in this race, War Stopper is unlikely to make a lead because there is plenty more speed in this race than he encountered in that maiden race last time, so he's going to have to show that he can be as effective coming from off the pace. Another horse who should attract some support in here is the number 4 Attachment Rate. He is also coming out of a 1 mile maiden victory, though he did it at Gulfstream Park. We'll take a look at his race when he won his maiden back on February 15th. Now, he did so in the slop, and he got a pretty good setup in this race because a horse just ran off on the front end down the backstretch, set some very fast fractions. The pace completely fell apart as they came around the far turn. Now, Attachment Rate did make a pretty early move to take the lead, and he drew off impressively in the lane, though I didn't like that he never changed leads through the stretch while doing this. It was the same story back when he finished second to Market Analysis in that January 25th maiden event. He didn't change leads even though he was closing through the stretch of that race. So Attachment Rate still looks a little bit green to me. Furthermore, that TimeformUS speed figure that you see in the PPs of 105 for his last race, that's going to be adjusted down to a 101. There was a timing error in his last race that was caught pretty late. The fractions that you see in DRFTVs, just completely ignore them. The fractions, they were not 21 and 44. About every call of that race should be about a second slower than what you see, including the final time. So take those speed figures that you see for Attachment Rate with a grain of salt. He did not run as fast as some of those speed figures indicate, and I think he's just going to have to step up to really compete against this field. Perhaps he gets the right pace scenario, but I thought he might be overbet in this race. One more horse that I want to take a look at is the number 7 SIXTO. He's another horse coming out of a maiden victory. He actually broke his maiden in his debut and did so at Aqueduct in late January. This horse won going 6 furlongs first time out, took absolutely no money that day, going off as the longest price in a 5-horse field, but that's proven to be a pretty strong maiden race. It was hard to know at the time because it was comprised mostly of first-time starters, but Mr. Phil, the 3rd place finisher, came back to win, basically repeating his TimeformUS speed figure. The 5th place finisher, Favola, came back to win pretty impressively with a vastly improved speed figure, so that seems like a legitimate effort. SIXTO is certainly bred to get better with added distance. His Dam was a horse who wanted to go long. He's a half-brother to Catch My Drift, who was grade 1 placed in the Beldame going 9 furlongs, so it seems like he should love every bit of the mile that he gets in this race. We'll just see what kind of trip he works out and whether he can take a step forward, because it's asking a lot of this horse to step up to graded stakes competition in just his second career start, but I do think that SIXTO has some talent. I'll use those maiden breakers, but like I said, I'm mostly focusing on Mischievous Alex, the favorite, and my top pick in this race, who is the number 8 Montauk Traffic. I would like to get somewhere around 5 to 6 to 1 on Montauk Traffic because he does have to improve in this race. I just think he's heading in the right direction and he's going to work out the right trip, so I'll use him over Mischievous Alex, Untitled, and that maiden breaker SIXTO in the Gotham on Saturday.